Today I wanted to talk about the normalization of evil in Kenya. When you look at this picture, how does it make you feel? What do you think about it? What is evil? Evil is defined as profound immorality. And we have seen over the past 10 or 20 years, we have seen an uptick in basic evil within society. A lot of evil things are thriving in society. Previously, maybe before 20 years ago, you'd rarely hear things about suicides. They were rare. And immorality, general immorality in the society was fairly uncommon. Today, everything that is immoral, that is wrong, that is unacceptable is thriving within the society. Now, I wanted to do a deep dive into why this is the situation. So what many people don't realize is that evil in Kenya, as defined as profound immorality, cascades from the top. Evil is introduced into the population by the media, which is then protected by the government. So basically what happens is that the government holds us down while the media pours all sorts of evil and garbage into our minds. They force feed us anything that is evil and immoral. And a lot of these things come from the West. Now, like we always say, the government exists to protect Western interests, not our interest. The government is not out there fighting for us. They're out there fighting for the West. Okay? So whatever the agenda is in the West, it will be force-fed upon us. That's why we are seeing the growth and the thriving of everything that is evil and immoral in society. Now, I saw this picture and I was very disheartened by it. And in fact, I was disgusted by it. And when you look at this image simply captures the war that is being waged upon our children by the media and the government. Now, in this image, I want you to carefully look at the two girls. Can you see the girl who's seated inside the bus? Look at where her eyes are looking. And now look at this other small girl who doesn't look to be more than 6 years old or 7 years old. Look at where her eyes are looking. And so what's happening in this situation? What's happening is that these two girls are being desensitized. Okay? And this is the way evil operates. They desensitize the population into what is wrong, so that what was previously unacceptable to you suddenly becomes acceptable. Suddenly you don't see a problem with it. This is the progressive desensitization of society. Now, every Western perversion, every Mzungu depravity is introduced into the population by the mass media, which is then protected by the government. Now you keep on wondering, what agenda would the media have? Why are they obsessed with pouring garbage into our minds and into the minds of our children? Just switch on your TV. And let's have an honest conversation. Can you watch TV with your children? The amount of filth, immoral garbage that the media pours into the population is simply outstanding. And it's astonishing. And what is also quite interesting is that the government never resists. Now, the government has military forces, and the military forces swear to defend the country, right, from foreign attack. Now, when you look at all the filth that is coming from the outside, that is being pushed towards our children by the media, why doesn't the military protect our children? It is also an invasion, is it not? An invasion is not only through the force of arms. There's also called cultural invasion, right? So why doesn't the military resist? Why doesn't the government resist? Because they are on the side of the evil. You know, I know it sounds very pedestrian, but really it's true. And you may wonder, why would that be the situation? I want you to think, do you ever hear any politicians condemning the filth on TV? Even once? Have you ever heard them condemn it? Even once in your hearing? Now, what you need to understand is that everyone in the government carries a Bible, but no one is a Christian. When you go to government, you'll find very many people pretending to be Muslims, and they all carry Qurans, but no one is a Muslim. Because if they were, they would resist. Why don't they resist? I would resist. If I had power, I'd send troops immediately to DSTV headquarters, right? Because they have to be stopped. I would send troops to all these media houses, because the filth that they are pouring on our children represent a cultural invasion of our values. I would resist, right? If I had the troops, but I don't control the troops. So why don't they resist? It's their job to resist and to protect the country. Why don't they do it? Because they are for it. Do not be deceived by the Bibles and the Qurans they carry. They love loud prayers in public places. When you look at our politicians, they're always going to a Thanksgiving ceremony, but they never tell us which God is this that they are thanking, right? So they have the pretense and the appearance of being religious. These people are anything but religious. These people are on the side of evil. That's why they never resist it. So if you're an ordinary Kenyan and your heart is dismayed by the amount of filth that is being poured by the media into our children, and you don't know how to protect your children, I feel for you, because how do you fight evil when evil is in charge? How do you fight wickedness when the wicked are in charge? What can you do? Not only just to protect yourself, but also to protect your children. Well, there's very little you can do. Why? Because you voted for the politicians. You vote for them every 5 years, right? The same people over and over and over again. So I don't think you have the right to complain about anything, because this is exactly the way you want the situation to be. If you did not want this situation, you would have voted for different people, but you refused to vote for different people. You kept the same people, right? Who have the same agenda, right? So you've lost your right to complain. But I haven't given up my right to complain. So the overall agenda is this. Let's make it clear from the top, okay? The overall agenda is very simple. The people who are the elite of Kenya, the people at the top of the society, this is more than just the politicians. I don't want you to think of the politicians only. Think of all the people who are in charge of Kenya, the people who control the media, the people who control the big churches, all the influential people. All of them have the same religion, and they're not Christians and they're not Muslim. They practice a religion called Luciferianism. Now, what is Luciferianism? That is simply serpent worship. They worship the ancient serpent, right? And this is the religion that they're trying to introduce into society. And there are various steps that you need to do before you can introduce such a profound change into the society. And one of the first things you need to do is to break down morality in society. You have to collapse the family. And the way you do that is by desensitizing people to what is profoundly immoral. You know, human beings are born with a conscience. There's something in you that tells you this is right and this is wrong. No one really has to come and tell you. You already know it internally. And so they have to obfuscate that line. They have to confuse that line. They have to demolish the wall, the barrier that separates good and evil. And they do this by desensitizing the population. And they start off with very young children, which is what this image, this picture is simply showing you, that these children have now been desensitized. Something has broken in them. The children don't even know, but something in them has been broken. A line has been blurred between what is right and what is wrong, because it is the adult who's teaching them evil, right? Grotesque immorality in this picture, okay? So once you desensitize the mass of the population, then you introduce all sorts of perversions. Once you've introduced perversions and the perversions have taken over everything, okay, they have taken over the culture, so that the culture is now perversion, so that morality is immorality, immorality is now morality, where people have no sense of what is right and wrong. Under those conditions, if you can get 80% of the population to comply with that culture, the new culture of immorality, at that point, then you can introduce Luciferianism. And this is what is happening slowly by slowly. They know what they're doing, okay? And I want to do this video series. This is just part 1. I want to do until maybe part 5, just to show the progression of the introduction of the new religion that is called Luciferianism. So you need to understand that is the overall agenda, okay? So when you see all these things happening, when you see all the garbage on TV that is being directed towards your children, then you understand that is the overall plan. And I'm only doing this to give you the tools to resist. And one of the things that you'll note is that the churches never resist. You'll never hear the churches stand up and condemn almost anything. Never. Why? Why wouldn't the church leaders stand up and say anything? Why wouldn't the imams, the council of imams, why wouldn't they stand up and say anything? You will never hear them resisting because a lot of these people are compromised. The church and the mosques have been infiltrated by those who worship the serpent. So what you need to understand is a very simple rule, is that those who worship the serpent and give offerings to demons also rule Kenya. There are no Christians or Muslims in power. There are no Christians or Muslims in parliament or controlling the media. It's the wicked who have power. Evil is in total control. Now everyone carries a Bible and a Quran. Not because they love the God of the Bible or the God of the Quran. It's because they love the serpent that is mentioned there. So it's very easy to deceive the mass of the population, because you simply have to follow Machiavellian rules, that you have to portray yourself, if you're a politician, as being religious. That's all you have to do. Pretend that you're religious, and most people will say you're a good person. It's very easy. So all you have to do is to carry a Quran and carry a Bible. Therefore, the media and the government relentlessly celebrate immorality. They relentlessly celebrate evil. If it's wrong, if it's immoral, if it's satanic, if it's unacceptable, the media will introduce it and promote it into the population, and the government will defend the media as they pollute our minds, as they pollute our culture, as they destroy every single thing that we hold valuable and dear to ourselves. Recently, you heard that the Supreme Court legalized, or at least attempted to legalize, LGBTQ. Now, how did all those Luciferians end up at the top court? Who appointed them? When were they appointed? Why would they do that? Are they Africans like us? Like I keep on telling you, these people, don't be deceived. They have the same religion, and they are all on the same side. All of them. And I don't talk about this now because that would be like going off on a tangent. But what happened in that Supreme Court ruling, you must understand, it's called the India model. I know maybe you've never heard of it, but just to touch a little bit on it, if you want to understand what will happen in Kenya, just look at what happened in India 7 years ago. Always do that, so that you'll never be caught by surprise, because the same Freemasons that rule over India are the same people that rule over Kenya. And so the only thing you need to do is to see what is happening in India. Just monitor India and you'll know what will happen a few years later in Kenya. It always follows the exact same pattern. When you hear that they were giving out biometric digital ID in India a couple of years ago, then you understood that it will come to Kenya. Right? So just look at the decisions made in India, and you'll understand what will happen in Kenya within 5 to 7 years. So that's a different topic for another day. All I wanted to talk about was simply to highlight the issue of the normalization of evil, and the fact that there's a war being waged upon our children by the media, backed up by the government. And it's time you took note, but even more important, it's time you began to resist. You need to raise your voice. That is, if you don't agree with the new religion that is being introduced, that is called Luciferianism. So I hope you fight back. I hope you have a spine. I know it's difficult for you because you're not trained to fight anything, but I hope you can finally, grow a spine and stand for what is good and what is right and what is moral.